but it's not, but we asked people about it, and majority said out of 70 people, we had 40 say no. And it would be possibly, an increase in HOA fees to do that. So I think that's the reason why people said no to it. But the back gate, the only security leak we have is the back gate. We have good security at the front gate. We have a rover, but at the back gate, we have, people do tailgate back there, and it is a way that there's people getting into the neighborhoods. That's the only leak that we have, and I'd like to tighten that up. I've already tried to get it done, and also I would like to switch. My second thing I would like to do is I would like to switch from the gate clickers that we have to a type like a scanner type, where there's two different types we could choose, either a magnetic strip or a sticker that goes on your car. Either way, they both work. You can't change it from car to car, so you wouldn't have a problem with people taking their clicker from one car, giving it to somebody else, and you have better control. Because once you take it off your car, it doesn't work anymore. So those two things for the security I would like to do.
I'm going to go out of the box, because I like to do that. A creative way, let's say we need proxies, all right? I think the community should have a huge barbecue. And to enter into the barbecue, you have to bring your proxy, and you have to bring your ballot.
Okay.
You have a market driven.
And I'm going to work out with you. This is gentleman right here.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Segui, 474 Mulberry Grove Road. Question is for both existing and new board members. I heard a lot about what everyone wants to do. However, I haven't heard anything regarding the petty stuff that or petty harassment that we go through as homeowners, such as getting our cars towed for being parked after 2 a.m. or having a tire on, or maybe part of a tire on the sidewalk, stuff like that. I mean, just as a homeowner, it just doesn't feel like you own a home here. So what's going to be done? I mean, is anything going to be done about that? We should concentrate our efforts more on real crime, right? On security for the neighborhood, rather than sending our cars to
Well, I'll try to answer your concern. That as you have expressed your idea of parking or getting towed, but there are other homeowners who are complaining to the manager.
But why? We're not New York City. You don't have garbage trucks.
Okay, we're not in a day. We understand kinder, gentler, but there's other individuals who want the rules enforced, and sometimes getting rules enforced means a little bit harder line.
I'd like to answer that. I think that there's other avenues that we need to be looking at rather than penalizing our homeowners and making it more user-friendly, whether it be that we need to make some sort of provisions for additional parking or something, because for us to live in a community that walks around putting stickers on people's cars and towing them in the middle of the night, we got to do better. We just have to do better. And that's how I feel about that.
All right. You got ladies been waiting.
My name's Carrie Peters, I live at 531 Grove Road Lane. My question is for you, I think, Stan. As a HOA attorney, if you get on the board, what would you do for the degrading emails the board gets, the emails that are sent out to residents that want to devalue our properties in here, and all the nonsense that goes on? What, as you as an attorney, will do to stop that type of harassment?
Well, before he answers it as an attorney, I believe you're running as an individual and an owner, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
I want to make sure just because he volunteered to run didn't make him in-house counsel.
I didn't know what I was getting into, did I? Look, yeah, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not an HOA lawyer. I will tell you my personal feelings, and I've had discussions with Jason and other people that send emails around. I thought it was very damaging at first about the flood, to put flood on YouTube and to send emails around and tell everybody in the community around here that we have a big problem here and you basically don't need to buy here. Okay, I had a big problem with that. But what I also understand, to answer your question, is that that ultimately got action.
No, it didn't.
That got something fixed that was broken. Well, that's your opinion, sir. This is my answer. So my answer to answer the question. Listen, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm gonna get to. You know, there's a First Amendment right of speech. Okay, everybody knows about that. Okay, I can't keep anybody from emailing anybody. Okay, but what I can do is what I think Christine has done a fairly decent job of doing is to try to keep homeowners' email addresses private. If they request them, it's private. I don't know what we can do as an HOA to police somebody harassing somebody by email, but I do believe that if we make it an open environment, which it's open now, but by broadcasting the meetings on the internet so people can watch the meetings, I think naturally that will quell a lot of the concerns about a lack of transparency. And I think a lot of the emails that I've seen have been about a perceived or actual lack of transparency. So that's what I think. I don't think the board has done a bad job dealing with that. Not everybody agrees with the author. And not everything that the author says I agree with. But I do think your question is a valid question. But to answer your question, I mean, I don't know what I could do, but the transparency will hopefully help quell that. But my position is very clear. I didn't like devaluing our properties. I bought property here as an investment because I live there too. And I don't want people to devalue my property, so I don't have a problem with that.
You too will become a part. We're moving now this way.
I'm Jeff Colhagen. I live at 390 Grove Lane. I got a real simple question, I guess. Everyone knows about the strip club being built. Will you represent us as a board in front of that meeting that's coming up in January? And what will you do for us in that situation? And I ask everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I think, is there anyone that's running as a candidate in favor of the strip club? Okay, that's what. That was going to be my next question. Now, the question is, will the board take a formal position against it and/or engage the attorney to lobby against it? I think that's really the two next questions.
I say yes to both.
Pardon?
I say yes to both.
Anybody in disagreement with that?
I definitely would oppose it. I would definitely, support the board in fighting against it and doing what we can and just staying on top of the information. Definitely.
And I guess I mean more, will you as a person be willing to represent us? Be willing to
Take the lead on the project.
take some?
Sure. I have a daughter that goes to the school that's within the mile, and I got a 6-year-old that lives here, and it's a major concern for me. So yeah, if I'm on the board continuing on, even if I'm not, I'm still going to go pursue it and try to do what we can. I don't know what we can do.
Yeah, but politicians count votes, and all of you, even just because they're on board, they're not. I think when it goes up before P and Z and it goes before county, show up. And you may want to designate certain people to be the speakers and make sure you don't reiterate the same points, but that's how you defeat a community organizes to at least attempt to defeat it. I read the article. Sorry.
He's stealing my flag. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I know about this kind of stuff because I see it happen, and I have clients, or I know of clients that were at law firms that I was involved in that had issues like this. This has now become a political issue.
Right.
Okay? Legally, yes, there may be an ability to look at it, and I think, that needs to be looked at. I don't think that would be tremendously expensive, but I would clearly be in favor of it. I have 2 kids. I have a 10-year-old son who goes to King's Academy. I know King's Academy, Christ Fellowship, everybody's opposed to it. Whispering Oaks next door is opposed to it. I mean, this is crazy. And we found out about it basically after the fact. So I am very disappointed about that. I'm very disappointed in Commissioner Santa Maria, or whoever was the commissioner that should have done something about it, or at least notified us about it, found some way to get involved. But it is important to have a very organized public presentation on something like this.
This should
And I
have
would
been
be-
picked up in P and Z.
I can't represent anybody personally, okay? That's not something I can do as the board. If I am elected to the board, I can't represent the board. That's something I'm okay with. But I can make sure that whoever we hire as a lawyer, whoever we hire as whoever is a PR person, that person's doing the right thing. Because I think we should oppose it.
My other board, what we did, we had another issue there with, and I hope nobody has issues with me saying we don't want a trailer park in our neighborhood. But, so what we did, we organized with the other communities around the area, and we pretty much got petitions going, and, then we presented them at the county, at the township meetings. So, whatever, the community decides, we represent the community. So whatever the community decides, whether it's another survey that goes out, of course, if one person tells another person, and they tell another person to fill out the darn survey, then we can get a good representation. But absolutely, the board, it is an issue I think that the board will take a look at and then, decide how to look at it.
This gentleman.
Joe Cortez, 275 Bow Road. My question is for everybody. What is your stance on limiting the number of renters in the community?
Can I take a stab at it because someone who may not have been, or haven't been on board? It's a use right, property use right, and this is very, very difficult. And while the board can look at different options on trying to do it, almost any option will require an amendment to the covenants and restrictions. If you can't get 30% to come to a quorum, the chances of getting 50 or 50, 60% to amend to 80%.
Our governing documents do not provide for limitations on rentals, therefore, there's nothing any of these board members can do, whether they say they're gonna do something or not, unless we can get the documents changed,
Okay.
which takes 80%.
It's a difficult, Sam wanted to take a step.
You mind if I
No, I still want them on, I still want to hear their stance, to see if they're going to try to push to
Fair.
80% to get
I think he wanted everybody, and then we'll get the answer. Chuck,
That's need to be studied, but I've been living elsewhere before, and in another state, and then the regulation on the homeowner association were that if you have more than 5% of renters in the community, no lender would be getting the problem, no lender would take a loan. So here it seems to be more liberal, marketing price.
I think, moving now fairly quickly. No, get next.
I think we got a problem now is you have more renters because of the economy. These houses here are not really to be rented, they're to be owned. I belong to homeowners, we changed the rule, but what we changed the rule is what you're really against is monthly renters. In other words, we changed, you don't want to infringe on people that want to, go north and back and rent a place for 6 months. But what you don't want is a constant 1 month. I'm not for stopping rentals altogether, but we can put some curtails on that.
Yeah, I agree with Bob with that. You don't want people monthly. Also, it's a matter of making sure that they're following the rules just like everybody else. I think people get a bad taste of renters when they're breaking all the rules and nothing's being done about it. So, as long as they're doing what they're supposed to.
Wanda?
It was brought up to put a limit on renters, and we did ask our counsel, our legal counsel, and they told us that it was practically impossible to change our bylaws in regards to limiting the renters. We don't have a lot of renters, really. It's only like at 10%. So it's not a chronic problem, but if it developed into like 20%, but it really has been hovering around 10. A lot of the new people that are coming into our community are young, professional families Not a lot of investors, yeah, we do have some investors. However, the numbers of renters is not a chronic problem. It's not anywhere near a chronic problem. It hovers at 10%.
We actually did look into this, because that was I brought it up to try to limit it, this year, and we found out that we have to change the bylaws in order to do that. And that's gonna be next to impossible, but there is really strict rental restrictions. We have, you have to put it on deposits. But I was the one that, I'm all for getting rid of as many renters as possible, and not all together, but at least I would like to have a rule that you can't rent for the first year. So that way you can't just buy it and rent the property. You have to live in it, you have to move, something happens, and then you can rent it. But the good news is, that since the prices have come up, it's gotten to the point where the prices are not conducive for rentals because the rental income isn't working for so the investors have backed off a lot, but they were buying a lot when the prices were, about 25–30% less than they are now. They were trying to buy as many as they could.
I'll be brief, thanks. When I bought my house in Greenwood, I read the bylaws. It's been a while since I looked at the bylaws. But one of the things that enticed me to buy was that I thought there was a maximum length of 6 months for a lease. That was a big deal for me because well, that needs to be addressed then, because it needs to be reviewed, and we need to figure out something. Because I don't have a problem with seasonal renters, because generally seasonal renters are the kind of people that we would want in our community. Not a whole lot, but it is a use function. I don't think you can tell somebody that they can't rent their property. I think that's unconstitutional. I don't think you can do that. But I think you can limit the length of the leases. I do have a serious problem with leases that continue, a house that just continues to be leased, and the way to do that would be to affect the length of the lease. So I'm not as downtrodden on the ability to change our bylaws. I think there is an ability, if you get the word out to the community and there's transparency and you get people involved. Everybody's concerned about 80%, then we change the bylaws and make it to 60%. Maybe people would realize, hey, we're never going to change our bylaws unless we lower the percentage. Then you'll
amend the amendment requirement and then you would amend the quorum.
That's right.
You got to hit the hurdle once.
That's right.
KS?
As far as I'm concerned, I would do whatever in compliance with the declaration, the articles of incorporation, and the bylaws, and whatever that is, that's what I would follow.
Derek?
You?
About the rentals?
Yeah.
Well, it's a chronic problem if we have more than 10%. So right now, it doesn't seem to be a great problem, but you're right. We should look into it as a board member to curb it as much as possible by limiting the lease time or something else. I agree with you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I go on realtor.com all the time and check out houses for sale here for rent. Currently, where I live on Mill Road, there's 18 houses for rent right now. That's way too high. That's ridiculous. So, what I would say is what Matt would say, what Matt said. As far as putting when you come in, this will sort of deter the investors. When you come in and buy a house, you have to wait 12 months before you rent it out. And I think that would help out.
Our dogs don't allow us to do that.
It would require. I'm the big guy, he has a question and I work by him, so he's going to answer the big guys and then I'll get to you.
I'm Ken Santos, I live at 9230 Plantation Estates Drive, and I obviously listen to the candidates, and obviously I'm a relatively new resident, was here since April, but obviously lofty goals, and very applaud your efforts in what you discussed tonight. But when you talk about the method of quorum and what it would take, you're going to have to expand into some other areas with electronic communications. You're going to have a building larger. So you have 600 residents, and they show up here in the quorum. Where are you going to put them? So you have to have some way of communicating with this. So you're going to get the community buy-in, and everyone's going to be involved, which is what we really want. Because the only way the community's going to grow is we all get involved. But you're going to have to create some facets that make it available. It's either through the electronic communication, because you don't have a building big enough. You're going to be off-site in a meeting somewhere, that's not going to happen. You won't have people show up. So, I'll give you, I'm not going to go into my background, but I can tell you, I work with a large manufacturer. The term we use all the time is Kaizen. Anyone familiar with that, the Japanese term? It's continuous improvement. And it's everybody putting a little in, continuous improvement. So, sorry.
Last but not least.
Yes.